So I would just love to know how it is that we can help you.
Well, I think you have to try to raise awareness everywhere, and I think it's much. You have to take a two-pronged approach. One, of course, is directly establish a direct line to the government of one's country, and the other is to rouse public opinion, to make the public aware of what is going on, and to try to work through the public, because especially in democracies the public has a lot of influence over the government. But I think sometimes their voice doesn't get through, which is why I think that you have to take a two-pronged approach, one directed at the government and one directed at educating public opinion, or rather making the public more aware of the issues involved. I think that's how you help most. And then, of course, to keep a sharp eye on what everybody is doing. That is to say, those who are of relevance. For example, your own government, the United Nations, the EU, organizations like the ILO, the ICRC, Amnesty International. If you know what they're doing, then you can give them support when support is necessary, and if you think that what they're doing is not enough, then you can urge them on to take a more dynamic line.
Can I ask you what message you'd have for women around the world as we're coming up on International Women's Day, on March 8th? And what message would you want to convey to the women of the world on that special day?
I think I hardly need to tell the women of the world today how important they are, but still, in case they haven't realized that, I would like to repeat this message, that they have a vital role to play. Well, theirs is the vital voice we're talking about, isn't it? The vital voices that we're talking about. The voice of women all over the world is very effective these days. We have been kept in the background for centuries and centuries, and suddenly it was during the 20th century that women emerged as a dynamic force, and people began to accept that you cannot keep half the world's population away from the important decisions that concern our planet. And I think that the women have to realize that. I find that sometimes in certain societies, it's the women who cling to conservatism, and they are the women, and they are the ones who encourage conservative views and conventional values. Now, I think that one has a right to respect one's tradition, and not just a right, but I think sometimes a responsibility to respect one's traditions and to make sure that some of the good traditions do not die out. But I think also one has a responsibility to look hard at these traditions, whether they are cultural, social, religious, to consider whether they should not be modified to be in tune with the times. And I think women are very important in this, and of course they bring up the children, so they must make sure that the children grow up with the right sort of attitude towards both men and women. We wouldn't like women to bring up men who have no respect for women at all.
How is it, or when was it, that you really recognized that this was your path?
Oh, I don't think there was one defining moment as such. We all joined in the democracy movement in 1988 because it seemed to us an opportunity to bring about desirable change in Burma. And I was not the only one, of course. Many, many people joined, and many people who had been interested in politics but had not had the opportunity to do anything about it. Many people who had never known that they were interested in politics, but then suddenly realized that this concerned them as well. So I was one of the very many, the thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands even, who joined in the movement for democracy. But of course, people's commitment are not always the same. Some are more committed than others, and some of us have continued right to this day, while some have fallen by the wayside or have decided to take a back seat, or perhaps just to take a rest for a while.
And why have you not ever taken a rest? What has kept you going all these years?
it never occurred to me that I should not keep going. And I think also because so many of my colleagues felt the same way as I do, that if you are committed to a cause, then you carry on. Your commitment should be total.
Was there a moment when you realized that what you were doing was bigger than you, that it was bigger even than your country, that you actually are a symbol for so many people around the world whose human rights are violated, who are being silenced?
I would not like to be regarded as a symbol. I work very hard. I think I've always realized that the cause is much bigger than any one individual, including myself. And to think that one is bigger than one's cause is, I think, the way to dictatorship. One should be very wary of people who think that they're bigger than the cause that they're serving. In the end, it's a matter of service. You're serving a cause, you're committed to a cause, you work for it. You should not think of yourself as somebody who just sits there and operates as a symbol. At least I would not like to think of myself as somebody who just sits there and operates as a symbol.
And do you feel like you've made progress?
Yes, I think we've made a lot of progress. I wouldn't like to say I've made progress because I'm not the only one who has been working for this cause, and I don't think I could have done it alone. I have very good colleagues, and I have many, many very, very valuable supporters all over the world, and it is because of them that I have been able to carry on. We all help each other.
Do you think that well, why don't you tell me a little bit about what you feel is at stake right now?
The future of our country, to put it very simply, and the right of our people not just to shape their own destiny, but to be able to take their rightful place in this world today. Because I think that given the chance, the people of Burma have a lot to contribute towards a better world.
Do you think that change can come about peacefully, and that is maybe the only way that real sustainable change can come about?
I think so. Real sustainable change can come about in many ways, and change can come about through violence as well. But I believe that for change to be sustainable and change to be truly beneficial in the long run, then it must come about in a peaceful way, because it sets a certain precedent. One of the sad things about Burma is that people have begun to think that the only way in which you can bring about change is through violence. It started way back, of course, at the time of our independence, where we fought for our independence. Our independence was something that emerged as a result of the Second World War, because our independence movement was connected with the whole battlefield of the Second World War, because the Japanese were in Burma, and we always think of ourselves as having fought for our independence. And then as soon as we achieved independence, many groups took up arms and started insurgent movements against the elected government. And then later, of course, there was this military takeover. And although there was next to no bloodshed, there was very little bloodshed in the two military takeovers, but yet if you use arms to get what you want, that's potential violence. So in a way, I think you could say that was also a violent way of bringing about political change. And then, of course, what happened in 1988, and there were other demonstrations which were put down very brutally and violently between 1962 and 1988. So there is this tradition of change through violence in Burma, or the prevention of change by the use of violence. This is why I think that it's so important that we should learn that it's possible to bring about change, desirable change, through political means, that is to say, through a negotiated settlement.
Are there people that you admire, that you really look to for inspiration?
There are people I admire. For example, Desmond Tutu I admire very much because I think of him as a great human being, not just as a great anti-apartheid leader or anything like that, just as a great human being. And because of the fact, I have to admit, that he has been so supportive and so strong in his loyalty to our cause. And then there are people like Václav Havel, whom I also admire very much because he never wavered. We have found, somewhat sadly, that sometimes those in opposition, when they come into power, they're not as supportive of other opposition or dissident movements as you might expect them to be. But Václav Havel never wavered. He was, as president, he was as strong in his support for our cause as he was when he was a dissident. And after he retired from his political post, he has remained as committed.
Do you think that that's what makes someone a great leader? I mean, what do you think great leadership is all about?
Well, I think I must say from the outset that I think great human beings are more important than great leaders. But leadership, I think, first of all, has to do with commitment. I see it very simply, and of course you can go on ad infinitum about all the qualities that might be or that should should be the assets of a leader. But to put it very simply, I think first of all, somebody who aspires to be a leader, or who, whether he or she aspires to be a leader or not, has come into the position of leadership, must be committed. And secondly, again, it's very simple, he or she must be honest with the people they are leading, or the people who have accepted them as their leaders.
Do you think that women are different at leadership? Do you think that there's something important that women bring as leaders that's different than what men bring?
I think men and women are different, there's no doubt about it. But I have to confess that I haven't gone into this enough to be able to say what the differences are. Of course, there are many who say that women have more empathy and better understanding, but this is not my special field, and I think it would require a lot of research to really come out with what the differences have been between men leaders and women leaders. We have a lot to go on now because we've had a number of women leaders over the last 2-3 decades.
Yeah, it's very exciting, I think, from our perspective, to see more and more women coming into leadership positions, particularly heads of state, and to see how they will do things differently. Michelle Bachelet, have you met Michelle Bachelet?
No.
It's exciting to see her as the new head of UN Women.
Yes.
That I think will be very exciting. They just had the launch of that last week.
Yes. I think perhaps women also have had to work harder because of the concept that women are not as competent as men, are not as capable of taking up leadership positions. Perhaps because of that, women have worked harder and have been more meticulous in preparing themselves for whatever responsibilities they have to take on.
I know you said before that you don't want people to see you as a symbol, but I think that no matter what, you are a role model. I mean, you're a role model to me, you're a role model to many women we work with around the world because of your commitment, because of your honesty, I think really because of your leadership and the peaceful way. Is it like a weight on you? Do you feel the weight of the world looking to you as a role model?
No, because I don't have much time to think about that. It's work, work, work all the time. If I sit back and think about it, is it a burden to be seen as a role model? It's not a great burden, but at the same time, it's not something that I'm terribly enthusiastic about, because I think that is a great responsibility. And one has so many responsibilities that any extra one is somewhat of an extra burden, and not even if not a very great one. It's I would like people to have many, many role models, and I think if I were one among many role models, that's all right. Why not? If I can do some good that way.
Do you think that young people, I mean, more and more young people, I think, are getting involved in social change? What would be your message to them? Those young people, whether they be in the Middle East or in the United States, who see wrong in their community and want to step up and make it right. What would be your message to them?
I think I would say to them, be positive. You know, instead of saying we don't like this, we don't like that, we want to kick this away, we want to crush that, there must be something positive as well. I want to see, we want this, we want to build up that. It's not just getting rid of what you don't like. It's not just changing the old things for the new. Well, you don't want to be like Aladdin, do you? You change an old lamp for a new and end up with something which is less valuable. So I would like young people to be positive in their ambitions, positive in their aims and objectives. What do they really want? And of course, one always worries about the increasing materialism in this world. And I would very much like young people to be aware of it, aware of the fact that money is as much a danger these days as things like drugs or violence, because money is at the root of things like drug trafficking and arms trafficking. And so what is money connected to? It's related to material goods. So I would like the young people to be more aware of the dangers of materialism.
What would be the one thing that you would want to leave behind on this earth? You know, as your sort of legacy or your imprint?
I have to say that I think in a very simple way. I would like to be people to accept that I have done my duty. I would be satisfied with that. She did her duty. She never shirked her responsibilities, and she carried them out to the best of her ability.
You know, I think that so many of the women that we work with around the world whose human rights are being, violated, whether it be in the Democratic Republic of Congo, with the terrible violence against women that's going on, or just, a girl trying to go to school and get an education and being denied that. What is your message to those women who do look up to you, I think, and who really are on the front lines of change, but they get tired, and you have not tired. I mean, how do you keep going? Where does that strength come from?
They need a support group. I think you mustn't be too proud to look for support when you need it. And I don't want them to give up hope. My message would be, don't give up hope. Keep trying. And try to find a support group so that when you're tired, at times when you're tired, you have helping hands, helping arms to hold you up. You can't do everything on your own. That's a wrong sort of pride. You must take help when you need help. But what I want the women to be aware of is that they have great power. Their power is great, their influence is great, and they must not forget that. And they must use their power and influence in the right way, starting with the way in which they bring their children up. You talk about how women are subjected to terrible cruelty. I mean, who is subjecting that cruelty? Other human beings who were once upon a time babies at their mother's breasts. How were those human beings brought up that they could bear to do these terrible things to other human beings?
Do you wish that you could go to some place like Beijing, to the Women's Conference, gathering with thousands of women from around the world and speak to them directly? Or do you feel like you have more impact here, you have to stay here?
Well, my work is here. I would like to go to certain gatherings where I think I would be able to do more for what I'm doing now, and also more for the women of the world, and for not just women, but for the others, for other people in this world who are underprivileged, who have been subjected to great wrongs. If I thought that by going somewhere else I would be able to do more, I would wish to go, but I wouldn't leave Burma now, because I think that I'm more useful here.
Do you hope, or do you think that one day you will have the opportunity to leave?
Oh, I think so.
Really?
To be able to travel around,
Yeah.
and to be able to do whatever I think I might be able to help people in other parts of the world, because I will never forget that we have been helped a great deal by non-Burmese, by people from outside our country who are helping us because they believe in the importance of human rights, they believe in compassion, they believe in brotherhood. And I feel that I would like to repay all this debt of gratitude by doing what I can for others who are suffering as well.
I really hope you get that opportunity.
I hope so too.
Yeah, we would love to have you in the United States. I mean, the message that you could bring to young people there, and of course,
I'd love to meet young people in different parts of the world. I do try to have telephone conferences with them, but it's not the same as being there, is it? There is a difference when you meet people face to face, and you can really talk to them. You can see what their reaction, that you can interact with them.
Well, I think it's good that you're doing press right now, because there is a lot of press about you right now in the United States, and I think a lot of young women, like the article the interview that you did in Vogue magazine that just came out. It's lovely, and I think it will bring more and more young women. They will read that, they will know about you, they will be inspired. So your message is getting out there through, other channels for now until you can.
Yes. Well, we have to try to get the right balance between getting out the message as much as possible, as widely as possible, and at the same time, of course, one doesn't want to overdo it. So we're playing this balancing game all the time. But it's not easy to know when not to and when to.
Let me just ask you one more question, and then we can do the other piece. I just sort of feel like if I was in your position, I would feel some bit of anger, some bit of like not being able to see loved ones, not being able to travel freely. Do you feel that, and like how do you deal with it?
No, not anger. Sometimes I'm annoyed not about anything to do with me personally, but some of the things that happen, some of the things that are done to other people. I think that some things are quite unnecessary. There's no need for any administration to act quite in those ways, and then I feel annoyed. But I can say quite honestly that I've never felt anger at anything that has been done to me personally.
Erin, do you have anything
Not
else?
that I like it.